Hi, Jessica.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. And it's such a pleasure to have you here with me today. We're obviously on the My Favorite Parts podcast, but I'm excited about this episode because it's two new things that are happening to me on this podcast. One, it's the first remote podcast that I'm doing, and then two, you're the first guest that I don't actually personally know, and that's why I'm
hmm
excited. I'm excited to see what you have to say, what you have to share with everybody, and I appreciate you giving me the chance to share that with everybody.
Yeah, oh my God, absolutely. When it was brought up that you were looking for people, I was like, I'm so down. I'm a yapper. If you let me talk about things that I enjoy, I'll talk about them.
Hey, that's what we're here for. That's what it's all about, is to share the things you love, and hopefully somebody else finds something that they love about those things. But I appreciate you giving me the time here. But because I don't know you in particular, tell me a little bit about yourself for me and for the audience.
My name's Jessica, lemon, like the fruit. I have a
Ooh.
dog. He's in here, so you might hear him at some point. His name's Bowie. He's 100 pounds. I love him with my entire being. He just laid down more.
Is he named after David Bowie?
So his name was Bo when I first adopted him. He was like a year and a half old, and his given name was Bo.
Hmm.
And I didn't quite like Bo, but I was like, oh, it's fine, whatever. And then I ended up somebody who said was saying goodbye, like in my apartment, and they're like, all right, bye, Bo, bye, Bowie. And I was like, Bowie. And then I do love Labyrinth. It is one of my favorite movies. So it just kind of works out. So Bowie,
Two
kind of like
birds.
David Bowie,
Hmm.
like
Two
kind
birds,
of.
one stone.
Yeah. But I live in Los Angeles. I
Hmm.
am an actor and I work full time in production. So that's actually one of the topics we're gonna talk about a
Yeah,
little
I'm
bit.
excited about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that's kind of my life. It's very sporadic because it's freelance.
Hmm.
And that's my cat outside. Did you hear him?
No, I
He's
couldn't from the thing. I can
Oh.
imagine though.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's like
yes.
screaming at the door. But I mentioned earlier that he can't come in here because he's gonna knock stuff over. So we'll see if he keeps me. I think if he does, I'll bring him in and just keep an eye on him or something.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I used to have a podcast. I want to start it up again. It was a
Hmm.
paranormal true crime podcast called Sour, Sweet, and Spooky. Um, yeah, I'm really bad about talking to myself. I can talk about things
Hmm.
that I'm interested in, but when it comes to like talking about myself, I'm always like, I don't
Is there
know.
something, since you did mention the podcast that you did have, was there like a subject in particular that stood out to you? Um,
Um, I mean, I've always been super interested in like paranormal stuff,
I
and
love
like
it.
ghosts and like
Hmm.
cryptids and all sorts of stuff like that. So just kind of finding my next topic was always really, really fun.
Hmm.
And I got into like true crime podcast stuff like a few years ago and
Hmm.
was really kind of like eating that up and finding the topic was probably always my favorite thing because there's so many
Hmm.
and it's like practically endless.
So
So,
each time you just get into like a rabbit hole and just start diving in and just going
yeah,
deeper and deeper.
that's like exactly what it was. Like if I
That's
heard of
awesome.
like yeah, if I heard of something or if I knew of a story, like I used to live in Florida and there's like a hotel called the Don Cesar Hotel and that place is super haunted. Like whenever baseball teams stay in Tampa, they stay at that hotel usually and the players always have like crazy stories of things going on. So I did an episode about that.
Hmm.
There was a house, not a house, an inn. I used to live in Massachusetts as well. I've lived everywhere. Um, and it was called the John Stone's Inn. But I think it's just called Stone's Inn now. They've changed it like a few times, but it was part of the Underground Railroad, and my aunt worked there when I was a kid, and she would babysit me because my cousin was like only a few
Hmm.
months younger than I was, and she would just tell us all these stories about like these like super scary things that would happen. And so I did my first ever episode of that podcast was
Hmm.
the about the John Stone's Inn. So like it's fun because you come across places that you've either heard stories about or you knew of or you didn't even know of that are, 10 minutes from where you are. You find out like all this crazy stuff. So it was really, really cool. I would definitely end up in some crazy rabbit holes for some of the topics, but like, I don't know. I loved it. I still do. I just got busy, so I didn't have time. But I
No,
want to try to do it again. I want to try to start doing it again because I miss
no, I think it'll. I think it's going to be awesome if you do
it.
get back into it, because those are the type of stories that I like. I listen to and I just go like, "Oh my god, give me more, give me more."
Yeah. That's like what
And
it is. It's like
yeah.
as I'm like looking things up, I'm coming across like another
Hmm.
website with more information or like another like a comment of somebody, oh my God, I stayed there and this was my experience. And like it's just it's very interesting.
Yeah, and
It's
I'm assuming the experience is different from, because we all like watch those documentaries and stuff like that, and you get a piece of it, but it's probably so much in depth, like when you're actually doing the research yourself. I think that's insane.
yeah.
Applause to you.
Yeah, it ends up being like pages of stuff I have to like condense to make into like one episode. It's practically like if I was in school again
Hmm.
and I was just doing like research papers every week on whatever it was, and it was just like 5 or 6 pages of just information on these topics. But it's like I hyper focus on them and hyper fixate on it, and I love it. It was always fun. And then finishing the product and like having
Hmm.
people like listen to it and give me feedback was always
Hmm.
really, really fun. So I
Yeah,
loved it.
yeah. It is a rewarding thing to do it, even if there's like a few. In my case, there's only like if there's a few people to listen, it makes you feel good that somebody even gave it a chance and
It's
stuff.
like,
So yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's like
Hmm.
even if I'm not some like crazy super popular podcaster that has like
Hmm.
millions of downloads every month or
Yeah.
every week or whatever, it's still the fact that there's like a couple of people that are like, "Hey, I listened and it's fun and I enjoy it." And I'm like, "Thanks. I
Yeah.
appreciate it."
Sometimes I'll get a little something. I'm like,
Yeah. You get somebody comments on something and you're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." That's like exactly what it is. It just
yeah.
feels good. It feels like you've accomplished something
Hmm.
and like it's something that you did for yourself. So it just like feels better.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. But with that being said, let's deep dive into you and
Okay.
what your favorite parts are. With every episode, we do the same thing. We go through your favorite parts. Usually after that, we do a favorite part of the week. But in this case, we're gonna, in lieu of doing a favorite part of the week, you're gonna get a fourth favorite part.
I'm gonna get a fourth topic.
Hmm. Four. And then after that, we'll hit you up with your senses, and then we'll wrap up with our proud moment. But first is going to be your first favorite part. And you did mention earlier that you are an actress and that you were working in production. So the what you listed down was working in the film industry as both an actor and behind the scenes. So if you'd like to dive in a little bit and tell the audience why that's one of your favorite parts.
So it's, I mean, it's that's acting has always been my number one thing. Like ever since oh my God, I don't even know how old I was. I remember I did a play when I was in elementary school,
Hmm.
and I was always like that kid that would, I was always quiet. And that's what always surprised people is
Hmm.
I was always like quiet wallflower type. And it wasn't till after I got out of school where I like wasn't that anymore. But they're like, "You're an actor. You like are in front of the camera. How do you do it?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Hmm.
I just do." But I did a play when I was it had to have been elementary school because I remember being really, really young, like less than like 8 or something.
Hmm.
And I played this character and her name was Echo. I don't remember what the play was, but I memorized the entire play. And my character Echo was like kind of like the main person in the
Hmm.
play, but like she I think it was some like Greek mythology thing, and she could only echo back what people said to her, and it was like that was her punishment or something. And so she basically knew every line anyway because I was always repeating people's lines to them.
Hmm.
But I loved it, and I remember there being a moment where like one of the other kids didn't know their line, and I was able to I don't I was able to make it so that they could remember their line and could keep going.
Hmm.
And this was, like, when I was, like, 7 or 8, and I remember a teacher coming up to me and going, "You did really, really good." And I was like, "Thanks." And it wasn't, like, a thing where the teacher's like, "You did so good." It was like, "No, you actually, like, did really good." And
That's
that,
kind of
like, has
awesome.
stuck with Yeah, they were like, "Wow, that was really good. You should keep doing this." And, so it was something that just, like, stuck. And from, like, then on out, I've always super interested in it, always wanted to act, but I was so scared of, like, stage. Like, I had
Hmm.
the worst stage fright. And even to this day, I get stage fright when it comes to, like, play stuff, but
Hmm.
TV and film, so easy. You put me in front of a
Really?
camera, it's fine. But you put me in front of an audience, I panic a little bit. I don't know why. I have such a respect for, like, theater
Hmm.
actors, like, it is a whole different world. Um, but it's been my number one thing forever. When I
Hmm.
had an opportunity to move out of Florida It was either to go to Atlanta or to go to here in LA. And LA was always my like dream place to go to. Like
Mhm,
it's where movies are made and all this stuff. And I moved out here and I have been pursuing it since. And I got lucky that I was able to get into working in production so
mhm,
that I could to see and be part of productions from the very like conception of them
mhm,
all the way to like wrap and everything. So I know every itty bitty detail that goes into creating like a commercial or something, which is really cool. And I think gives me a really good understanding and a much more respect for the
mhm,
people that do create these things. Cause when I was just acting, I was just in front of the camera, I like understood that a lot went into what happens on screen,
mhm,
but you're not there as many hours, you don't see it as much. So seeing it from, like, start to finish every single day, the respect I have for, like, everybody that creates films has gone up, and I think that helps me as an actor.
mhm.
It's also nice because like, I understand more about, like, why certain things are done the way they're done, like, why lighting is done a certain way or why like, setups are the way they are, to get certain types of shots because I do stuff behind the camera, and it helps me because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, they're doing this so that they can get this shot from this angle, so this is what I have to do as an actor." Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit of reason because I would assume that if you don't know some of the things, you're just taking directions. But I
Yeah.
was in a sense when I've like taught people things, I always found that it was people. It's so much easier to teach somebody when they understand why they're doing it and stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like as in what you're mentioning as an actor, once you understand why they're doing it, you take it in more and accept it more, or
Yeah.
sometimes even know what to do beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and it makes sense, so it's like if somebody is asking me to do something as, like, an actor, like, "Oh, we're having you move here, it like might not make sense in the moment if you don't know what's going on. Because
Mhm,
sometimes when you're shooting, it's not like you're standing here, you do your lines, and then they, like, move the camera behind you to get, like, the over the shoulder to get the other person.
yeah.
There's a lot more movement to it, and you're not in the exact same spot, like, sometimes you have to move a little bit because 'cause they're gonna move a little bit, so sometimes they'll, like, cheat it, so
Mhm,
you're maybe even over, like, 3 or 4 feet from where you were
mhm,
standing, because they want, like, a different background for that person that's, like, still in the same room,
mhm.
and, like, if you don't know about it, you're like, "Oh, that's weird, like, I was standing over there,
Yeah.
why are they moving me over here?" But, like, now that, like, I've seen all this stuff, I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Mhm.
Like, they're moving you because it's gonna be, like it's just there's a lot to
Yeah.
it. There's so
Well,
much to it, like and it's really, like, fascinating, like, what pieces, like, because there's, like, so many different people that have the tiniest little jobs that without that one tiny little job, like, things would fall apart. And it's so cool.
uh-huh.
I think it's just really cool to see that happen, and then also, like, it's a very male-dominated industry,
Mhm,
but in the last maybe, like, year or so, I've seen a lot more women on sets,
mhm.
and it just makes me really, really happy.
It
Like,
does
a
because you
lot more
guys do.
women
Yeah.
yeah. I was just like, there's
There's
a lot
no
more women
reason why
in
you
the camera
shouldn't be there.
department and everything, and
Mhm,
it's hard to get into anyway.
mhm,
So it's just I don't know. Being on sets in general just
mhm,
makes me happy. So even though I'm working, like I'm still learning and I'm
mhm.
still working in the industry I like moved out here to work in, whether I'm on screen or behind the scenes.
Yeah, and as long as it's rewarding to you at the end of the day, that's all that
Yeah.
matters. So,
It's
and
so fun. I work commercials primarily right now.
uh
And getting to see the final commercials, either, like, through an ad or something, because I don't usually see them because I don't have cable or
mhm,
anything, I just have, like, streaming stuff, so
mhm.
occasionally one of those will come up, and I'll be like, "I worked on that." Like, I know those people, like, I know like, it's fun, it's really cool.
Yeah, and when you first 2 questions
Mhm.
for it. What was the most surprising thing to you when you got into it? Like seeing all that behind the scenes stuff. Is there something that like stood out to you that you're like, oh my god, I didn't know that that's how that happens?
Um, I wanna say really, like, the main thing that didn't really surprise me, but just kind of, like, made me think a lot is, like, how much pre-production there
Mhm,
is, like, how much needs to be done before the
Oh.
actual shoot day happens.
Mhm.
Because like I do office PA work a lot, so I'm
Mhm.
working in the office, I'm helping the coordinator and the production manager hire everybody, find out availabilities, book the trailers, the motorhomes, the bathrooms if we're going to be on a set that doesn't have like a building that doesn't have its
Yeah.
own bathrooms. You have to like think about all of those things. And when I first started doing that, it's not something I ever really thought about. Like it makes sense to be like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, we need bathrooms. Oh yeah, we need like caterers. Like we need all of these
Mhm.
things. And so it's like it was definitely one of those things that as I learned more, it was just like like when I say so much goes into a production, it's like we'll have like 2 or 3 weeks of pre-production for like 4 days of shooting.
Mhm.
And then we'll have like a week or so of like physical wrap, but depending on the project, those 4 days of filming will go off to like the editors and stuff, and you're not going to see it for 2, 3 months. And then it's done, and then it's like aired, and it's like, wow, all of that for three 30-second shot, 30-second clips, you know? But it's like it's
Mhm.
cool. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think the biggest thing that like really put things into perspective for me
Mhm.
was how much time there is in pre-pro.
Mhm.
Like there's so much in pre-pro, but I love doing it. You know, like it's a lot and my brain gets real tired sometimes, but it's fun.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably a very rewarding profession. And with that being said, is there something in particular, whether it's acting or the production side, is there something that you would consider your favorite part? Like, what's your favorite part about it? That
Um, oh, my dog is sleeping. You hear him?
Mhm.
Bubby, are you snoozing? Wake up, I'm so sorry. He was dreaming. He was doing the thing.
Mhm.
I love him. Okay, so most rewarding part about like acting stuff, acting or film, I think like the end product is really just like kind of like fulfilling, I guess. But
Mhm.
I had a moment when I was still new in the industry when I lived in Florida and I was just doing like short films. I think I might have done like a feature at this point, but I think it was just short films at the time and like some
Mhm.
like local commercials. And I went to an event and I was just sitting at like the dinner. Like it was like a thing. So you had the dinner and then there was like a showing and I think there was like awards after it. But somebody that is a good friend of mine now, um, he came up to me and was like, "Hey, like I love the work that you've done. Like I've watched all your shorts. Like I think you're great. I can't wait to see what you do." Like one of the shorts specifically, he's like, "This one made me, I was laughing so hard." And I was like, "Oh my God." And it was so weird because it's like I'm not by any means like famous or anything. Like I'm not.
Mhm.
And just on like a super local level to have somebody that I didn't know like come tell me that they enjoyed my work and that it made them laugh, like that made me feel really, really good. I think that is like my main goal anyway, is
Mhm.
to create things that make people feel. And like whether that be crying, laughing, make angry.
Mhm.
You know, some of my favorite characters in the world are people that I cannot stand seeing on screen because they're so evil,
Yeah.
but them as like people like seem fine, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like but like they made me feel that way and I want to be
Mhm.
able to make people feel things. So even early on to have somebody come up to me and say that and that I made them laugh, it made me
Mhm.
feel really good. So I think that's probably my favorite part is that like interaction I guess you can get with
Mhm.
like people that see that work, that completed work and like have something to say also.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? That makes
It
sense, right?
does. Yeah, it does because I mean, sure, like as we mentioned, like even with the podcast and the one that you did, we don't get into it to like we get into it to like do stuff for people and hope that it affects people.
Yeah.
So it's always good getting the actual feedback that what we're doing is actually working. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the little,
A little
hey,
pat on the back,
yeah,
a
yeah,
little like, yeah, this is actually great. And you're like, oh, thanks, I know.
yeah. So no, that
Like
does
I
that,
feel good about it. So when other people feel good about it
yeah.
or like it, you're like, ah, cool.
Mhm. Just
Like
a little
it's just,
validation is always a good thing, and it
yeah.
goes a long way. And Jessica, so that leads us into our second option, second
Topic.
portion, favorite part about this. The second thing that you did list was a group of books or a franchise. The author is Sarah J. Moss, if I'm pronouncing
Hmm.
that correctly.
Yeah, mass
Um,
moss. It's kind of the same. Oh,
and
hey, stop it. Immediately. I mean, he's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, you're recording now? I'm gonna
Yeah.
start being a menace."
Hmm.
That's Boyd. I know I mentioned Bowie earlier. That's
Hmm.
my cat, Boyd.
Yeah. In the few minutes he's been out, he's wreaked havoc.
He's like already, he's gonna pull whatever that is off. Hey,
Yeah.
stop.
But
He knows.
he does, and that's why he keeps doing it. They all know. That's why
They
they
do.
keep pushing that thing closer and closer to the edge.
They do it because they know that they're gonna get attention. They're like, if I
Hmm.
do this thing, it's gonna give
Hmm.
me attention, so I'm gonna do it all the time.
Hmm. And it works
Um,
all the time.
okay, so yes, so the
Hmm.
Sarah J. Maas
Uh,
SJM.
yeah, I did look in at a couple things, and I can't tell if it's an actual franchise or if it's just series of books that she has that she just does, or if it's actually like correlated.
So it's not a franchise. It is
Hmm.
literally just an author in her books.
That's
But
awesome.
they have become so popular over the
Hmm.
last like year, that they've like blown up online. Because I kind of want to. Oh, please don't throw up. You okay?
Yeah, please not on
I was
camera.
holding his belly too much. He did one of those things. I'm sorry, bud. um, but so the author's Sarah J.
Hmm.
Maas, SJM. Um, her fans sometimes call themselves masochists, but masochists, or um weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, that's
Um,
good. These
he's
puns.
just chewing on a water bottle now.
Hmm.
Whatever. Um, um, and then I'm trying to, there's like another one. Well, I guess just in general, it's the mass verse.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like she has three series of books. There's one other book that she wrote like a long time ago that she pretends
Hmm.
doesn't exist, and it's like about Batwoman. She pretends it doesn't exist. The whole fandom pretends it doesn't exist, but I know it exists. It's her
Like
one book that I have yet
I
to
didn't do
read.
that. I didn't do that.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But so she has three books series that
Hmm.
she's written. So there's Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Crescent City. And Throne of Glass is her first series that she wrote. She wrote it when she was a teenager.
Hmm.
And it's very much like a young adult, like YA fantasy series. And it's probably my favorite series that I've ever read. And it's just really, really good. Um, and like all of the lore and all of the magic and stuff that's in it, and it's just I I could
It
talk
looks like it's
so
getting
much
you in
about
the
it.
feels.
Yeah, and so that's her first series. Her
Hmm.
second series is Court of Thorns and Roses. And that it currently is 5 books. There is a sixth one in the works right now.
Hmm.
Throne of Glass is 8 books, and that's done. That's a complete series. And then her third series is Crescent City, and that is 3 books. And that final final book, supposedly final book, there's no talk of a fourth, was released in January this year.
Hmm.
So that's her most recent one that's come out is the
Yeah.
third in the Crescent City books. And there's just been a huge, I don't know if you like are on like TikTok at all, but book talk is a thing. And that's
I
just,
did see you write that there, and I was
yeah.
like,
You're like,
book
what is
talk?
that? Book talk? Yeah, so
Hmm.
book talk is it's TikTok, but it's specifically people that just like a community amongst TikTok
Hmm.
people that talk about books, share books, go to conventions where authors go to
Hmm.
like sign their books and just meet their fans. Um, like a Comic-Con, except for just like books and novels and stuff like that. And so book talk kind of blew up with the A Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR is what it is like abbreviated down to.
Hmm.
Um like middle-ish of last year, and I started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses like January of last year, January, February of last year,
Hmm.
and I was kind of in a reading slump. I used to read a lot when I was a kid. I have the hiccups. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
um I used to read a lot when I was a kid. My dad is a huge reader. He's got like
Hmm.
a million books at home. And that really got me into reading when I was young. And I would sit up all night and read books. Like I was a big Harry Potter fan, read all of those books
Hmm.
100 times. I
The
should show
almighty
you
Harry
my
Potter.
copies. They're destroyed. I've read them so many times. Um, but I would just like devour these books, and not even just like small little books. Like
Hmm.
Holes is a short book. I love that book.
Hmm.
Um, but there's like thick books, like thick 400 or 500 page books that I would read in a night. Um, or two, like a night or two. And I stopped doing that after a while. Hi, bud. And I don't know if it was just like life got in the way, or I just like I don't know, because I find so much joy in reading. I love reading. I
Hmm.
love disappearing into these worlds. And I don't know what it was that made it so that I just was like, "Ugh, I don't want to read. Like, I don't want to do that." Because it's like always been a huge part of my life.
Hmm.
So reading, for some reason, reading A Court of Thorns and Roses pulled me back into like reading again. And not the
Giving
only
that
person.
love.
There's like a ton of people in that book talk
Uh-huh.
space or bookstagram, so book Instagram.
These
I know.
names.
I know the names for them. It's something that I've gotten used to now, but I was like, that
Mhm.
seems silly. But now I'm like, book Instagram. But in those like communities of people, so many people are like my age, like I'm 31. They're in that like late 20s, early 30s with this like resurgence of like wanting to read and like enjoying taking that time to yourself to read. And a lot of people's catalyst to be brought back into that was reading ACOTAR. And I was one of those people. I got the first book, I read it like in one sitting, and immediately was like, I need to go to the store and get the rest of these books. So I went to Target, bought the box set of all of them, and I don't think I really slept much. I laid in bed
Mhm.
and read the next four books back to back to back in just a couple of days. Like I barely ate, like I barely like took care of myself. I just sat there and read these books because I fell in love with the characters and I
Uh-huh.
fell in love with like the world that was created, and it really pulled me back into reading.
Mhm.
And because of that experience with those books, I was like, I need to read the rest of her books. So then I read her first two Crescent City books because those two were
Mhm.
currently out. And um my cat is climbing on stuff. Um spoilers for the
Mhm.
Massverse if anybody has not read all of Aktar
Mhm.
Crescent
Spoiler
City.
alert. If you don't want to hear it,
Spoiler
everybody
alert.
close your
Yeah.
eyes, plug your
Um
ears.
close your ears. At the end of the second Crescent City book,
Mhm.
a portal is open and characters from Akatar show up.
Oh, so it's like a
So it
oh my
becomes
God.
this
I can't have
multiverse.
yes, I can't believe I'm
Yeah.
having that brain fart right now.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it becomes that like multiverse. And that's why people are now calling it more
Mhm.
than just like Sarah J. Maas's books and her series. It's the Massverse. And now there's like a million theories that go into um what potentially could connect the Throne of Glass books
Mhm.
into these other series. And it is something because at the end of the or in a portion of the final Throne of Glass book, which is called Kingdom of Ash, it's like this thick. It's a thick book.
Ooh.
And in it, the character and all through the Throne of Glass books, there are like oh my gosh. He's knocking stuff over. I knew it. Um in the Throne of Glass books, they talk about portals. They talk about these things called word keys to be used to open word gates, which are
Mhm.
portals to different worlds and things like that. So it is kind of established that that is a thing that exists within the Throne of Glass world. But then you get Akatar, and that seemed like it was completely different, like a
Mhm.
completely different planet, different or well, a completely different like universe or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Crescent City ties it all in. So in Throne of Glass, at the end of Kingdom of Ash, there's a moment where our main character, um, again, spoiler for the Throne of Glass world, our main character, Aelin Galathinius, she is passing through worlds.
Mhm.
and she passes through a world where she sees oh, sorry, my cat, what are you playing with? He's just playing with the chair now. He's just patting at the chair. Um, so so she's passing through worlds,
Mhm.
and she is flying through um a city. So she just sees a city, a huge city at the bend of a river, and that is Crescent City. So in those books, they describe a city at the bend of a river. Like that's what the map is at the beginning of the book, everything. So she's flying through Crescent City. So um then she flies through like mountain range, and there's a couple, and one of them is pregnant. It's a man and a woman, and she's pregnant, and that male, they're fae. So they're like fairies, but they're like more, I feel like the fae in these books is more akin to like elves,
Mhm.
if you were to describe it, because they're like strong, beautiful, they have the pointed ears, like they're fae, but they're not like elves.
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain it other than that. But so she sees them, so the guy ends up like slowing her descent down because she's speeding through these worlds,
Mhm.
and he able is able to slow her down, and then that brings her back into her world again. So you see these worlds, you see the two main characters, Reese and Feyre of Akatar,
Mhm.
see them when Aelin flies by. You see the city that our Crescent City main character Bryce is from,
Mhm.
you know? So people are like, how else can we connect all of these things? And there's so many little things within all three of the books. If you really dive in, it is a deep dive. If you really dive in, there's so many little things, little nuances, little tricks, little things that you hear that make sense for all three books. It's like maybe this is the same thing, just goes by a different name.
Mhm.
One of the big things is there's these essentially like aliens, but not aliens. It's just another race from a different planet
Mhm.
that takes over planets basically because they need the magic. That's how they survive, is by stealing the magic from the planet. And there is evidence of all of that species
Mhm.
in all of the series. So
Oh, so to let you know they're kind of connected somehow.
yeah, they have different names. And then in the third Crescent City book, we
Mhm.
find out that the like main bad guys in Crescent City are the same creatures that couldn't take over the Akatar worlds. They tried to, but those characters fought back and
Mhm.
kicked them out. And we also find out that some of the characters, some of the um, races from the Akatar world ended up in the Crescent City world, and how that world was created because those main guys kind of curated the world itself
Mhm.
to be full of magical creatures so that they would have somebody to feed off of. And it's really cool because you think back to Throne of Glass,
Mhm.
where it was her first story when she was a teenager, and she knew that these other series were going to exist and that they were all going to tie together in some way.
Yeah.
And then
It's like, how do you plan that?
yeah,
Look at you.
it's like it's very
Mhm.
much like, I don't know if you know anything about like Taylor Swift and like all of the Easter eggs she puts in
Yeah.
everything and has put in
I'm
everything since like
very,
day
very well
one.
versed.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
very much like all of these little Easter eggs and all of these different stories and
Mhm.
different characters and different bloodlines all kind of merged together in some form or another. And then
Is
in
that,
Crescent City, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is that what you would say is probably like your favorite part about it, that they're all connected?
Yeah. I think like the fact that everything is
Mhm.
connected, but the only thing that kind of connects Throne of Glass like officially
Mhm.
to everything else is at the end of Crescent City, again, spoilers. We have a character Lydia,
Uh-huh.
and she's like a shifter, so she can like shift
Mhm.
into essentially like a deer creature. I think it's just deer. I think she just shifts into a doe. Um Sorry. He's
Mhm.
climbing on everything. Um, and she also has like fire magic,
Mhm.
which is Aylin's big thing, is she's the girl on fire. Like she is one of the other characters named Manon calls her the fire breathing bitch queen.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's like that's her like
Hmm.
nickname. Um, but so says that she comes Lydia says that she comes from a long line of shifters,
Hmm.
and in the Throne of Glass world, all of the Fae can shift into an animal
Hmm.
of whatever it ends up being. So like Aelin is human and Fae. And then her love interest is Rowan, and he is like a hawk and Fae. So then Lydia comes from a line of specifically like deer shifters,
Hmm.
but their main magic is fire. And there is like kind of a little tie-in about her ancient family symbol being um like a white buck,
Hmm.
and that's very much like Aelin's family. Like Terrasen is the kingdom that she rules, and that is their like crest. And so it ties in a little bit with Lydia saying, "Oh, like it's an ancient
Hmm.
family thing, like that's our crest
Hmm.
and these are my powers." So there's some tie, but yeah, I would say that my favorite part about all of that is the fact that it is all connected,
Hmm.
and that like every time I've reread it,
Hmm.
I like come across something else that is like, "Oh,
Like, oh shit.
there's more." Yeah, like there's
Yeah.
more. Yeah. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, plus it keeps you in it keeps the reader invested, like wondering what's the next connection it's going to be.
Exactly. So,
Hmm.
like, with the fact that the author is writing the sixth book in the ACOTAR
Hmm.
series, that could be like anything. And that's one thing with ACOTAR. It's mainly the first three books mainly focus on one couple and like their journey. And then the fourth book is kind of like we call it like a Hallmark Christmas special because it's just a
Hmm.
quick little novella to break up from like the major war and everything that happens in the third book to the fourth story, which is about one of Feyre, the main girl's sisters.
Hmm.
And so we think that the sixth book is going to be about her other sister, who up until like really now is kind of been kind of boring and nobody really likes her. I think she's hiding things. I don't know if she's hiding things or if I don't, or if something crazy is going to happen. I don't know. But there's a lot of speculation on if things are going to continue to tie in
Hmm.
with other series. How is things going to tie in from the Crescent City finale book to the sixth ACOTAR book? Because you can't just like pretend that stuff didn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so there's just like a lot, and it's a really cool community
Hmm.
because there's so many people that just have these thoughts, and you just end up in these like rabbit holes, and you just like talk to other people and share your theories and share characters that you loved, characters you related to. And it's like that with a lot of book talk in general. Like if you've come across a book that becomes popular and people
Hmm.
want to talk about it, it's just I think it's a really great community to be in, and I feel like it's a very like safe community to be in too, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does because I mean, I game, so you can imagine
Yeah.
some of the communities with some of them are kind of toxic, but
Yeah, some can be kind of toxic, and like, and granted, like sometimes in parts of the book talk community, there are people that are kind of toxic,
yeah, I
but
mean that's everywhere.
that's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think the overall feel of like the
Hmm.
book talk, bookstagram, that world
Hmm.
is like very accepting because people like you read some of the craziest things, and it's some of it is very fantasy, some of it's real, some of it's scary, and you can have these people that you can talk to that
Hmm.
also read these things, and like I feel like in that community there is a pretty good understanding, at least from what I've seen. I have seen some opposite, but for the most part, from what I've seen, there's a really good understanding of the fact that not everybody is going to like everything exactly the same as you do.
Hmm.
And I think that's really important because like people have different tastes, different styles of books, different like some people will like really dark romance, which are kind of scary. It's
Hmm.
like got this the man murdering people, but
Hmm.
also like falling at his knees for his woman.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but he's like murdering people. Um, but then you have like other cute ones. Like I'm reading a book right now
Hmm.
where it's like about a baking championship between like magical creatures, and it's adorable. It's just a really cute little book.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like people understand that people have different tastes. Um, but I did get Brian to read Throne of Glass. I think he's about to start it. So, because I'm starting Mistborn, which is the series, the book series that he talked about on his episode.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll read that if you read Throne of Glass. He was like, fine. So
Look at you
he's
guys
gonna read.
trading places.
Yeah, I was like, so he's gonna read my favorite series
Mhm,
ever. And I'm reading his and getting into that universe,
mhm.
which I know he explained also is a universe. Like there's all these
Yeah.
different things that all ties together. And
Mhm.
it's really cool. And that's like my favorite part, that things just tie together.
I think
It's
that's
neat.
awesome. For somebody that like everybody knows like the MCU and stuff like that. So to
Yeah.
have something it's comparable like in like
With
literature and stuff like
literature.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like it gives you something. It makes you want to read, and sometimes you can't stop reading. So I
And that,
appreciate you sharing that.
yeah, and that's what's cool about it is that it's like, yes, like the people are like heavy into the DC universe, heavy into the Marvel universe, and we'll spend hours and hours and hours like watching the movies and comparing things and doing all this stuff. And it's like I can do the same thing with books,
Yeah.
and I don't think people realize that they're like, oh, you're reading all these books, and it's like, yeah, like you spent 14 hours watching the Marvel universe. I'm gonna spend 14 hours reading all these books that are connected because they're in their own
Hmm.
universe. Like you can enjoy multiple things.
Can absolutely. And with that being said, there's another thing that you enjoyed that's going to be your next favorite part. I actually happen to enjoy it too,
Okay, cool.
and it's actually the Last Airbender.
hmm Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
I
And
have
if you, I have a love-hate relationship with it, and so I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on it. But tell the audience what's your favorite part. What makes it one of your favorite parts?
I I think the way that they're able to talk about heavy subjects and
Hmm.
make it palatable to people and kids
Hmm.
is my favorite part with it. Because it's not just like some cartoon. Like
Hmm.
there's actual like real things happening in the episodes.
Hmm.
Not all of the episodes, some of them are fun,
Yeah.
but the overall thing is like really just making things make sense and make it understandable for like a younger audience while still being entertaining for like an adult audience. Like
Hmm.
I watched that show as it aired on Nickelodeon like
Hmm.
20 years ago, and I will still sit and watch it now,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like it's something that like
It's funny you mentioned that. I have a friend that I stay with in Chicago. Every time I go back for work, he lets me stay at his place. And the last time I went over there, he had it like just running while he was working and
it's one of
stuff.
my
And
go-tos.
I was
I
like, oh
will
my
just
god, you watch Avatar?
Yeah, like if I'm cleaning or just doing something where I don't really need to
Hmm.
like think about anything, I've watched it so many times. I
Hmm.
could put it on in the background, glance over, and know exactly what's happening. I can see 3 seconds of it and know exactly what has happened
Hmm.
prior to that episode, what's going on in that episode, because
Yeah.
it's a very comfort show for me. Like
Hmm.
it's something that I watched when I was a kid, when it was airing on TV. It's something that I watched through COVID
Hmm.
when there was like that big resurgence of it, but I actually have the elements
Yeah.
tattooed. So these are the elements. So
Hmm.
it's air, water, earth, and fire. I have those tattooed as a nerdy but not immediately nerdy tattoo of Avatar. So it's something that I've loved, and I've had this tattoo
Hmm.
for I think I got this in 2019.
Hmm.
I think I got it in like fall of 2019. It was the last time one of the last times I went to go visit my family. So yeah, I think it was in 2019. Um, when I went to Florida to see them. Otherwise, I've gone
Hmm.
to Colorado and Texas to see them. But yeah, so I've had this since like 2019, and um that whole series is just, I mean, I literally have these things. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing there.
I would
So I have,
like it. Not to stalk, but I was like looking in the background at some of the stuff, and I was like, okay, Avatar, okay, that
yeah,
makes
so
sense.
I've
Yeah.
got yeah, so
Yeah.
you've got Zuko,
Yeah.
Aang, and then on my other wall, I have one that's Toph, and
Hmm.
then I have the Ember Island players,
Hmm.
and I'm missing the Katara one, and I'm really upset about it because um it was from a like monthly subscription box,
Hmm.
or it was quarterly. So they ended up doing 5 boxes. They did a winter one, and then they did a year, and then they stopped making them. And I'm missing the first box, which is the winter one that had the Katara one. So I'm
Oh, that
missing that one.
sucks.
I'm sad about it.
There's somebody we have to harass on the internet for it.
I know. I have
Yeah.
to like eBay it or something.
Yeah.
It's like a box that comes with like a bunch of like random things.
Hmm.
Like this is one of the things that came with one of the boxes, and it's the turtle ducks.
Hmm.
It's the mom with her little babies. And then I have like I don't even know. There's like a fidget toy. I've
Hmm.
got these little boxes, one with Zuko, one with Iroh. I have a plushie of Appa that came in one of the boxes. Each one came with like a t-shirt or a jacket or
Hmm.
something. So I have all this stuff from those boxes, and I'm just really sad that the one thing that I wish I had was the scroll, the Katara
Hmm.
scroll from the first
To
box
complete the collection.
to complete the collection. I'll get it eventually.
Hmm.
But yeah, I have so much just like random, like I have a bunch of pop figures of Avatar over here. Like I am a big nerd for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I just do want to ask just one question. How do you feel about, well, I'll ask two questions. One, how do you feel about the live actions?
Okay.
I've only seen
I
the actual movie. I haven't seen the show that came out recently. So
okay.
that's my only thing to base off of.
Okay. So I again absolutely loved the cartoon.
Hmm.
Phenomenal. I really enjoyed Korra as well, but I didn't enjoy Korra, The Legend of
Okay.
Korra, till later.
That was going to be my second question if you
Yeah,
watched Korra. So that
If
takes
yeah,
care of that.
I have. I watched Korra. I've
Mhm,
rewatched it a couple of times. The first time
mhm,
I watched it, I didn't quite like it, and I think it's because it was really rushed, and that was on Nickelodeon. That wasn't
mhm,
on the creators. It's like they were rushed to only do one season, and then they were told they got more seasons, and like while they were doing more seasons, they were getting like no's from Nickelodeon. So it was a lot going on. But rewatching it now as an adult, I do really enjoy it. I do think Korra's growth and everything was great.
mhm.
Um, the movie, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, was so bad.
Yeah, I remember
I
that
think
vividly.
the literal only thing I liked about it
Hmm.
was some of the wardrobe, um, like hair, makeup, wardrobe. Some of that was really good. And Aang's tattoo, which I think that would be considered under like makeup.
Hmm.
Aang's tattoo was really good. Or in the movie, and it was Ong. They went by Ong in that movie, which is so annoying. Um, but yeah, it was horrible. I did not like it. I think maybe if you've never watched Avatar and you watched the movie, you might enjoy it.
Hmm.
I feel similarly about the movie Aragon. I absolutely loved the books. The movie was awful on its own. If I had never read the books, the movie was probably fine.
Hmm.
Um, but it was just not good. It was not good. The bending was horrible.
Hmm.
It was awful. I hated it. Um, the live action show that Netflix just came out with, I did enjoy it. I
Okay.
liked it. I think it could have been a little bit better, and like some of the acting was not good. Um, the wigs were horrible. The wigs were so bad. Um, but overall, I think it was a really good like tribute to the cartoon, if that makes sense. Because like
Yeah.
there's a lot of elements in it that are very much the cartoon, but I think it was rushed. I think they only did like 8 episodes.
Hmm.
And I really feel like it could have benefited from even like two more episodes if they could have done 12, like
Yeah.
four more episodes. Because I feel like they skipped over a lot of some of the fun things that we really enjoyed about the cartoon.
Hmm.
And the directors did say that they wanted to showcase more of the like hardships and like the war side of what was going on
Hmm.
versus like Aang being a kid still. But I think that was what made the show so good is that he was dealing with all of these incredibly mature problems, but he was still able to be a kid
Hmm.
and still able to find happiness within what was going on. And I think that was one of the things that makes the cartoon what it is that as tough as things can be, you can still find happiness, you can still find joy within what's going on with the people around you. And you don't really get much of that in the live action.
Hmm.
But there were a lot of things, and like you got to think too, like going from a cartoon to a live action is not super easy. There are things that are very much specific to just cartoons and animation in general than there is that like can't really be done with like real life stuff without being like super CGI or something. Like I don't know if you watched One Piece. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I,
I liked it.
I yeah, I haven't watched all of the cartoon because there's a
Um,
thousand episodes.
are you talking about the
Or so
cartoon? You talking about
sorry,
the live action or the cartoon?
the anime.
I've seen a couple episodes of the anime. It's far too long for me to,
That's what I'm saying. Like I've watched a few episodes of
yeah.
the anime and it's
Mhm.
great. I thought it was good. I
Yeah.
thought it's fun. I loved the live action. I thought the
Yeah.
live action was
Same.
incredible.
Yeah,
You know,
that's the live action was really, really good.
yeah. And it's like I can see how some things were changed because they kind of have to
Mhm.
be changed for it to
Yeah.
make sense as like a live action. Because like animation is so different from live action. So there was things that were ooh, hiccup, sorry. There was things that were changed in the live action that like either didn't happen or happened very differently or with different characters.
Mhm.
But I think they did a really good job of combining things because there's like a
Mhm.
couple episodes where it's almost like 3 or 4 episodes worth of stuff that they were able to combine into like one episode
Yeah.
and moving things from like being like part of their journey when they're traveling through like the woods or whatever, they were able to take pieces of that and implement it into when they're in a city because the city was like the main stop, you know.
Mhm.
They were able to take stuff. So like I thought it was good. I think they did a good job with it considering what it was.
Mhm.
Um I haven't rewatched it, but I binged the entire thing and I was smiling most of the time because
Good.
I did enjoy it because it was something it was like you pick up on those little things where it's like, oh
Mhm.
my God, that's this moment from like this episode, or like,
Yeah.
oh, that's this character, or oh, that's that one
Mhm.
thing. Like, so you pick up on little stuff like that, and it's like they did put the effort in, knowing that they weren't able to get every single detail in. They did make it in a way that if you do watch it and you pay attention, you do find those little elements that they added
Mhm.
to kind of like appease the nostalgia of the show while still creating like a new show.
That's
So,
awesome. Because
yeah.
that does give me hope because I stayed away from it because of I was scorned by M. Night Shyamalan, but that gives me
Yeah.
hope that I can go in and give it a shot. So,
Yeah, no, it's much better. I also think all of um the actors are better cast
mhm.
for like who they are. They add in um what is her name? Suki. They add in her mom,
Mhm.
which is kind of interesting, but it kind of gives you a little bit more lore to like the Kyoshi warriors and it's stuff like that. There's some changes that they made, but it like makes sense to make sense.
Yeah, which
Like
it definitely needed. So,
yeah, yeah.
uh, but no, I appreciate you doing that and enlightening me on the live action
Yeah,
show again. So I'm definitely gonna give that a shot. But with that being
worth
said,
it.
that takes us to our last favorite part for you.
Yeah.
And you get the four parts because we're gonna forgo the favorite part of the week. And I'm
The
interested to
world's
see.
the world's in a place right now. We're gonna
Yeah, there's
there's
nothing positive to,
there's
especially
not a
after this
ton of
past
things
week.
going on right now that
If anybody's been
are
paying attention to news, so there's not much good stuff going on. So I'm
yeah.
glad to give you the fourth option, and I'm excited to see what it is because I think you mentioned it was a game called Palia.
Yeah, Palia. Okay, so it is a
Mhm.
free online multiplayer game.
Yeah.
I've never really played any of those, like anything like Fortnite or
Hmm.
what is Minecraft, like all those things.
Hmm.
Like I've never really played because growing up, I never had like the money to get like the nice PlayStation where I could play online with people.
Hmm.
I played The Sims. I was a very like cozy
Sims is
game player.
awesome. So
I'm a very cozy games player.
yeah.
And you know, it is fun sometimes. Like I played like RuneScape and stuff, so I think that might be one of the only like online things that I was able
Mhm.
to play that had other people from all over the world playing. Um, but I came across Palia like I don't know if it was last year or like the year before, and it was before the game even came out. Like they had created like a trailer of what the game was going to be.
Mhm.
And I was like, that looks really nice. I was like, that looks like a fun, cozy game. And the graphics are great. Like you basically have um your own plot of land. You're a human. You somehow get transported to this planet and you have no idea what's going on, and
Mhm.
all these people are like, whoa, all of these humans are showing up. And like, well, since you're here, we're going to give you a plot of land and you
Mhm.
have to,
Get
build
to
your own
work.
home. Yeah, like build your own home and like be part of our community.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the game. It's like it's like Animal Crossing,
Mhm.
Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley, any of those kind of like cozy games where you have to like build a farm, like farming games, like you create your own little homestead. So you are this new human to this new planet and you have to collect stuff and you have to hunt the animals of the land. You have to help out some of the other um like the townsfolk. You have to help them out with stuff.
Mhm.
And it's mostly open world. It's not a huge open world. You have like your main map, and then there's another map that you can go to. Um, so yeah, so you have like Village, and then you have not Bonsai Bay, Bahari Bay. So those are the two main places
Uh-huh.
that you can go, and then you have your land, and then there is like a market that shows up like in game from like 6 p.m. to like midnight or something.
Mhm.
And like the time, like I think a whole day in the game is like an hour in real life, I think. Um,
It's not bad.
yeah, might be 2 hours. I think an in-game day is like an hour or two in real life.
Mhm.
Um, but you can play with people from like all over the world. Some of the quests that you get sent on directly involve working with other players, which is really cool.
Mhm.
There's certain things that you can only get. There's these things called flow trees, which is like magical trees that the only way to cut them down, because they regenerate. So the only way to cut them down is to have like four people hitting it at once. So you like in the chat are like, hey, I found a flow tree at like this
Mhm.
coordinates. And then people are like, I'm on my way. And you go and like you play
Everybody comes with
together.
their axe.
Yeah, yeah, and you, like, upgrade your stuff, like, the more you play, the more, experience you get, and you're able to upgrade things, and then there is things that you can buy, with, like, real life money. There's, like, skins and stuff that you can buy, there's creatures, like, one of them's like a fox, they just did an update, and there's, like, a new little, like, dragon creature you can, like, buy, and it can, like, run behind you as you run around, like, it's really cute.
Mhm.
And, like, it's just one of those games, like, I'm a big like, when I am gaming, like, I just like cozy stuff. I don't like super stressful things. Like, sometimes I'll play games like that, but, like, my roommate, he will play, like, Call of Duty, he'll
Mhm.
play Destiny, like, all of those games where
Mhm.
you're, like, fighting aliens and fighting
Mhm.
all these things, and I'm like, "That's gonna get stressful. I just
Yeah.
want to plant my plants and cut down some trees and build my little house." Like
I was gonna mention well, I actually probably have to talk to you after we get done with this because I need suggestions on cozy games because I
Okay, I've got a
because
few.
I'm like burnt out on like open world games. Like I'm like, do I really want to sink in 100 hours into this thing?
Dude,
Man,
I already have like 100 something hours into Palia. And
yeah,
like
but
so it only came out a few months ago on the Switch. It
yeah.
used to be well, it was in beta for a while. It
Mhm.
started being a beta in like November or
Mhm.
something. And then it just recently came out on Switch, which is why I ended up getting it. And I realized,
Yeah,
oh, it's free. Like
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and get it. Um, but I was getting I lost track of where I was going with the like it from like 2 years ago. But I signed up for like email notifications on it, and I
Uh-huh.
ended up getting selected to be a beta player. But
Ooh.
at the time that they sent that, I was doing like a million jobs. Like I was in Vegas working on like a music video. I was there for like 5 weeks. Like, well, I was in Vegas for 10 days, but I was on the job for like 5 weeks. And
Mhm.
it was just like I was constantly working. I had no free
Mhm.
time. So I was
Yeah.
just like, whatever. And then months pass and it's
Mhm.
like, oh, it's also available on Switch now. And I was like, say less.
Sign me up. No,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I ended up was looking up like cozy games, and I was like this close to buying like Stardew, but
Stardew's great.
I ended up doing like Planet Coaster just to tide me over for
Oh,
now.
I
But
haven't
if you
seen
have
that one.
suggestions,
I mean,
I'll grab them from
Stardew is
you.
fun.
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to chat about it now. I mean, Stardew's fun. I like Stardew.
Hmm.
It's very 8-bit
Hmm.
style.
Yeah.
And like there's characters that you can like fall in love with and get like
Hmm.
married, and it's Stardew Valley was actually created after the Harvest Moon games,
Yeah.
which was owned oh my God, I can't think of they were owned by a certain company. The company sold the name Harvest Moon. So then another company came in and started creating games under the Harvest Moon game, and they're not the same.
Yeah.
I don't like them. I've tried them. I don't like them as much. But now they don't have the Harvest Moon name anymore. They use the Story of Seasons. That's their new name. So they just recently re-released like the first Harvest Moon game as a Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life. And it's essentially the same game that I played
Mhm.
when I was like 10, but it's like a little bit better. I think like it's a little bit nicer, but it's a cute, cozy game. You're not playing with other people.
Mhm.
You're just building your farm. Like, and it's the same with Stardew. Is like you're basically
Mhm.
building your farm. You inherit this farm from a family member who died, and you have to over the seasons take care of the animals that wander onto your farm. You have to grow crops to sell them, to make money, to buy supplies, to build your barns and stuff like that. Like they're fun games. And I very much enjoy them. But I think Palia is my new go-to cozy game
Mhm.
because there's no real stakes in anything. Like there's no like deadlines for stuff. That's not like you have to get this done in the next like two
Mhm.
days. Because some of those other games are like that. Like you
Yeah.
have to get things done pretty quick. But I feel like Palia, you don't have to there's a couple quests that I haven't done in like weeks, and it's not changed anything in the storyline. Like it's not really like changing anything
Mhm.
because I'm like enjoying like collecting stuff and selling stuff and making money and
Mhm.
like it's cool. So
Good.
I
That's
got a
awesome.
couple
I might have
Animal
to give that a
Crossing,
shot then.
Animal
Yeah,
Crossing to go to.
I had Animal Crossing, but long story short, UPS lost my Switch, but that's a story for another day. Um yeah, so I
Oh no.
can't even cozy up to that anymore, but
Well,
I
at
might have to
least
check out Paleo now.
I was gonna say at
It's
least
on mobile,
Palia.
right?
Yeah, it's no, it's not on mobile, but it is on PC.
Okay,
So it's on
cool.
PC and it's on Switch.
Awesome.
Um, and I've seen some gameplay from PC and it's different from Switch. It's the same thing. Like people on PC and Switch can still play together.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the graphics on PC are nicer. Um, just because I've seen gameplay of people when they're playing through their PCs, when they're just like streaming,
Mhm.
and the graphics are better.
That's
But
I'll
they're
take
gonna
that.
be,
As long as
but
it gets the job done and
yeah. But
gets
yeah,
me the fix I need. So
yeah, it is. It's fun. I will sit there for hours and play it. Like I have 100 something hours in it already, and I just got it like at the maybe
mhm.
April-ish, maybe beginning of May. I play it all the time. Recently I've been reading a lot more. Just because I've just been more into my reading right now with my free
Mhm.
time. And I'm part of like a book club and like we have a couple books that we read every
Mhm.
month. So I've been kind of more focusing on that. Um, and I started a new series like 3 days ago. No, I started a new series. It was last week. It was a whole week ago.
Mhm.
But I read the first book, read the novella that comes after it, and I got the second book. It was released yesterday, and I'm almost done with it. So
Wow,
yeah, I've been devouring books lately, but if I'm not reading and I'm not like hanging out with my roommates, I'm probably playing Palia.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, but I'm glad you shared that because now it gives me something to look forward to. But
It's
that's
fun. You can
yeah.
customize your character, like not quite Sims
Mhm.
customizing, but like you can still like customize them.
Mhm.
It's fun. I really
Good.
like it.
I'm gonna give it a shot and I'll let you know how it goes.
Please do.
I will.
Please, it's so fun.
That does end that portion of the show with your favorite parts, and I appreciate them. They were all awesome, and I appreciate you sharing them.
I
Because
told you I was a yapper. I'll
no,
I'll talk
but
all day.
there was three of them that I didn't know anything about, or at least didn't have knowledge about, and I learned something new from all of them, and I hopefully the audience did too. But now we're gonna learn a little bit more about you also.
Oh,
That takes us to our next segment, which is gonna be your five senses.
my five senses. That's right. I made a note so I can
Ooh,
remember.
so, you mentioned listening to the podcast before, and for any audience members that haven't, basically, I'm just going to ask you what your five favorite senses are, and not which one of them is your favorite, but what's your favorite out of each. So that's your taste, touch, sight, smell, and sound, and we're going to ask you why. So, do you want me to give you the first one, or do you want to tee yourself up?
You if you whichever. I don't care.
Give me sound.
Sound. Okay, let me scroll. Okay. So some of my favorite senses,
Hmm.
like favorite things from each sense, I've realized when I was like writing them out and thinking about it
Hmm.
are kind of all stem, not all of them, but mostly stem from memories I have as a kid growing up. Um,
That's not a bad thing because usually when I ask people these questions, it's weird that a lot of them find that they correlate with something in their lives. So,
yeah, and
mhm.
like, and I think that makes sense. So we you said sound, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So this one, this one was actually really, really hard for me to think of, and I'll explain after I say what I'm like my first thoughts for that are. Um, when I was a kid growing up, my mom has 8 brothers and sisters. They all together owned a house in Maine on a lake,
Mhm.
and we would go every summer and every winter. It's some of my favorite memories growing up. I'm so glad I had that growing up. I
Mhm.
want that for my children when I have kids. I want to have a
Yeah.
place that they'll remember and have those same kind of memories. We used to do like fires. So we
Mhm.
would have like a fire pit and we would like do marshmallows over the fire and everything. So that sound
Mhm.
of like the fire crackling and just being outside in nature. So it's like you have nature sounds
Mhm.
because it was just a cottage on a lake. Like there wasn't anything around other than like a couple
Mhm.
other cottages. So there wasn't a ton of people. You just hear the nature and like the crackle of the fire. And to that day, I still love that sound. Um, I have so if I can find them, I get the candles that have the wick that crackles.
Oh yeah.
Because I love that sound. Um,
Are
but
you are you one of the Netflix people that put that?
sometimes,
Why
like if I
not?
if I'm not throwing Avatar on in the background, I'm throwing on some like fire crackling with like cozy music. Like and I do that sometimes. So I have that as like that was like the first thing I was like really thinking of,
Mhm.
but also I feel like my favorite sound doesn't has I haven't heard it yet.
Mhm.
And I say that because I have this like vision of like two things. One is sitting in like a library space
Mhm.
in a nice comfy chair with a fire crackling. So it does still kind of
Mhm.
involve fire, but like it's raining, there's a little pitter patter, and I'm
Mhm.
just reading a book and it's like the sound of the pages and just like
Mhm.
all of that combined into like that moment.
Yeah.
But I know it's like multiple things to create the moment that what it is.
Mhm.
But I think my favorite sound, I haven't heard it yet because I feel like my favorite sound will probably be like when I have kids, like my kids laughing, or like my partner, like his laugh,
Mhm.
like or like something like that. I feel
Mhm.
like that will probably be my favorite sound.
Mhm.
And that's why I think this one was so hard because I was like, I don't know. Because
That's
I'm like, I
fine.
don't think I
You had a good one to hold you down until those things come along. So
yeah, and that's
I
the thing I was
can't.
like, because I couldn't think of anything, and I was
Mhm.
like, well, maybe the crackling of fire, I do like that sound, but I was like,
Mhm.
I think I don't have a favorite sound because I haven't heard it yet,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. To like, if you don't have one, there should be something that you're looking forward to, and I'm happy that
Yeah,
you're looking forward to something.
yeah,
Even when you were mentioning like the different things about like reading the book and fire crackling and the rain and everything, just to if there's a way to put a sound into a feeling, I feel like that feeling is like comfort, and I feel like that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I think
Mhm.
it's just like the comfort. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
So no, I think that's a good way to put it for that. But that leaves us with four left.
Yes.
I'll let you pick the next one.
Um, I'll do taste because that's the next one I have.
Hmm.
Um, I have a big sweet tooth. Um, I feel like as I've gotten older, it's gotten less,
Hmm.
which makes me a little sad, but whatever. It's probably better for me anyway. Um, but very specifically back to that cottage in Maine
Hmm.
is making s'mores. So the
Ooh.
taste of a s'more made
Hmm.
on like a fire, like a log fire, where
Yeah.
we're collecting the wood
Hmm.
from the woods, like chopping down little things, having them dry and like using that wood,
Hmm.
whatever. I don't know if it's that or what, but those s'mores, I still to this day think about.
Yeah.
And every time I have one,
Yeah.
I'm just like reminded of how good the ones were
Hmm.
when I was growing up.
Yeah. Because it's not the same.
'Cause it's not the
Yeah.
same. I don't know if it was the type of graham cracker or if it was just, like, the smokiness of that specific wood that is in that like forest. I don't know, but I
Maybe the char and the marshmallow
the
wasn't the
char,
same,
I
you know?
don't, yeah,
Like,
like
yeah.
whatever it is, like it's always good. I
Hmm.
love a good s'more, but I feel
Yeah.
like it never compares to that one that I had growing
Hmm.
up.
Yeah, because I mean, I do feel like experiences elevate like all the other stuff. Like I feel like you having a meal like on the beach in like the Riviera would
Yeah.
taste better than having the same meal like in your
The
apartment
same
or
meal,
something,
like,
like, you know?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think
It,
that's what it is. It's
yeah,
like,
it's an
and I've
experience.
made, yeah, and like I've made s'mores around
Hmm.
fires and stuff before, but I'm always just reminded of
Hmm.
that like time as a
Hmm.
kid.
It always hits just a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah.
No, and I think that's a good way to look at it because you don't sometimes you don't take into account what the experiences do to those items too. Like when you think about taste, like, or
Yeah.
even with your sound, like it's that experience that elevates it for you.
It's
So
everything that
mhm,
surrounds the moment
yeah.
itself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, I think, see, we're learning things little by little.
Yeah.
So now let's learn your third one. So you did taste and you did sound.
Mhm.
Give me smell now.
Smell. Okay. So I have two smells that I could not pick between.
Hmm.
One of them because like I lived in New England and then I lived in Florida, so I
Yeah.
lived in a lot of rain. So I love petrichor, which is the name of the smell after it rains.
Oh, like the dew.
Yeah. So that smell
Ooh, that's the
after,
first time I've learned what it is.
yeah, it's called petrichor.
Hmm.
It's literally that's the name of the smell after it rains. So there's that smell.
Hmm.
And then just in general, like winter, which again, like both of these still kind of tie into Maine.
Hmm.
And like, because we would go every summer, every winter, raining in the summer,
Hmm.
winter, it was snowing. So it's like the smell of like snow, pine, that crackling fire smell.
Hmm.
Um, Also, this is a weird one. My dad used to work at a printing press.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I would like visit him at work when I was a kid. Like my mom would like bring me in or
Hmm.
whatever. And the smell of the printing press, like it's I don't know if it's like the paper or if it's like the hot ink.
Hmm.
Um, but I love that smell. That might prevail over all of the other ones, but it's like the smell of a printing press. And like I don't know how to explain it if you've never been to one.
I probably don't know what it smells like, but I would assume because I this might sound weird too. I love when paper comes printed fresh off of a printer and it's like
Yeah,
nice and warm. And
it's
I be honest with you, I think there is a kind of a smell that goes along with it.
it's similar.
It's
It's
like an
not the
inky.
same. I was gonna say it's not quite the same as like when
Yeah.
you're printing paper out, but it's
Yeah.
like almost it's almost there. It's just that smell only like
Hmm.
amplified in an entire warehouse.
Yeah.
And it's like the paper, like I don't know if it's like because there's these big like cutting things that cut all the paper. I don't know
Hmm.
if that like puts the smell of the paper into the air. I don't know. But just like the smell
Hmm.
of like the printing press,
Hmm.
like maybe it's the chemicals. Like I don't know.
Maybe you're getting high,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Me at like 7 years old, like, this
Yeah.
is great.
Hmm. Give me
But
more,
yeah, I
give me
think
more.
yeah, so I think that
Hmm.
probably, but yeah, like the smell after it rains and just like winter in general. Like I remember I loved to just like sit outside. Even if it was freezing, it was just like a good smell of like pine in winter and
Hmm.
stuff. That's my
Yeah.
favorite like candle. If I can find like a pine
Hmm.
or like evergreen candle,
Hmm.
I will buy like 7 of them because that's all I ever want my house to smell like.
That's awesome. I also like paper high. We're gonna go with that also.
The paper, yeah.
Yeah.
The chemicals in the printing press, that's what it
All right, that leaves us with two more. So you have
touch and sight.
yep.
So sight, we'll do
Mhm.
sight. Um, I was talking to my roommates about this and I was trying to figure out
Mhm.
like what my favorite thing and I was trying to think of like a view that I saw that was really, really cool. But honestly, whenever I see like my dog really, really happy,
Mhm.
like it like floods my whole body with happiness. So if I like see him happy, it just like makes me happy. So I think it's like specifically like my dog because that's I see him all the time.
Mhm.
My cat sometimes when he's not being a menace.
Mm.
And so I was talking to my roommates about it and I was like, I think it's just seeing like people I love and care about like happy
Mhm.
makes me happy.
And that's a perfectly good answer.
Which I
I think
think, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not a specific one thing, it's just that in general.
it's contagious and stuff. Like you see it, and then it just makes you want to smile and everything, and
Yeah, it
it
like
gives you,
makes you
yeah, it makes you
it's
warm
like a
and fuzzy
feeling you
inside.
get.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of it's like a lot of feelings you get from moments.
Hmm.
And it's like it does. You can like feel it and you're like when you see somebody happy and you feel
Hmm.
happy, you like feel it in your chest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful way to look at it. Because
Mhm.
sure, you can get a nice, good view, but how often can you see the people you love happy? So,
Yeah.
mhm,
And it's like my parents recently visited. They came to California for the first time. My dad has
mhm,
been here before when he was in the Navy, but my mom had never been here.
mhm,
And so they came to visit for the first time since I moved out. And I hadn't seen them since like October of last year.
mhm.
So it'd been 8, 9 months, I think. So it was really nice to see them and to see my mom like smile when she like saw me and gave me a big hug. I was just like, so
Take
yeah,
me
I think
now.
it's like I think seeing people I love, seeing my
Yeah,
animals that I love like happy and like in that moment, that's
mhm.
probably my favorite my favorite sight thing.
I think that's a, if there's anything that's going to make you happy about singing, I think that's a wonderful way to thing to do. So,
Yeah.
but
So my last one is touch.
touch.
Touch. So again, I went through like a bunch of different things for this one. So I have like
Hmm.
two. One, I think any woman or anybody who shaves their legs can relate to this is shaving your legs,
Hmm.
moisturizing, whatever, and then curling up into bed like cold, crisp, freshly washed sheets. Like the feeling of the blankets on your legs is like one of the best feelings in the world. And I
Yeah.
mentioned it to my roommates because I was like going over the list,
Hmm.
and she's like, "Oh, that is the best feeling." So I know other people who shave their legs can relate to that feeling because it feels so nice. Um, and then the other one was specifically the not so much touch, but again, it's the feeling on your body is if
Hmm.
you ever go to like a concert or something
Hmm.
and it's so loud,
Hmm.
but like the bass or whatever it is so like deep you feel it in your chest.
Yeah,
Like you feel like almost your whole body is like
I
vibrating
know
with
exactly what you're talking about.
that feeling.
Yeah,
That's always if somebody's like, "What's your favorite feeling?" It's that.
like that reverberation of the like the
Yeah,
bass and
and you like feel
everything.
it in your
Yeah.
chest. It's like in your bones you feel
Hmm.
it. That's probably that's
Yeah,
it. That's a
because
big
especially
feeling.
when you're already hype and that thing is just like
Yeah.
pumping you up and stuff, you're
And
like,
again, it's a
mhm,
thing about the surrounding environment
mhm,
amplifies
yeah.
what it is that you're feeling in
Hmm.
that moment.
Yeah, because
And so
honestly,
it's like,
if you were just in a room where nothing going on and all that bass is hitting you, you're probably like, get me the hell out of here.
yeah, it's
Just
like,
like
oh
if you're in
God, the
a,
only ever time it's cool is like if you're in the
yeah,
car and you're
yeah,
like, but again, you're in a headspace where you're bumping
yeah,
music for a reason and you're
hmm,
feeling it in your chest. But really specifically going to like a concert or
yeah,
something, being close to a speaker or being
hmm,
in a place where you're feeling that reverberation and those
hmm,
sound waves hit you and stuff. I love that.
yeah. I agree. It does, especially after you're describing your items. It does. You do have to think about how often the experiences like help elevate the different things that we like. So
Yeah. Like
I think that's,
it's very interesting. The
mhm,
human body is cool.
yeah, it is. We who knows what else we're capable of, but that does take us to the last portion of our show, which is
Mhm.
gonna be a proud moment. So,
Oh yeah. I so recently,
mhm,
I say recently, it was like last year, but I'm still working on it. I
mhm.
started writing a book series.
Ooh,
And I'm feeling really good that I actually took the time to sit down and start it.
mhm,
I feel really proud of myself for at least like starting it because I have friends that like oh I had this idea but they've never like done anything with it. So I feel really proud of myself for actually sitting down and starting it. And it's two book series that are gonna tie together,
mhm.
you
Get you
know,
getting your own
similar to
little
all the
cinematic
Manfreds,
world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Similar to all these other things, but the first, the one that I'm currently writing is more of a newer concept. And then the other series that I have in mind, um, is something I started to write when I was in high school.
Mhm,
And I have since kind of like, so this was 15 years ago ish, 15, 16 years ago is probably when I started writing this, maybe even longer, that 17 years ago. Oh God. I hate being able to go, yeah, like 15 years ago and like still and be like a junior or something in high school,
mhm,
sophomore in high school. Ugh. Um, but I started writing it then and I've kind of like readapted it a few times because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with it.
mhm,
And so it's just this idea that I've had floating around in my head for literally over a decade. And it's just been there. And I haven't figured out any way to like do it and
Mhm.
like actually like go forward with it. And then last year I got an idea for a different book series. Um, and started writing that. And I'm probably 50, 60,000 words into that, which is pretty
Ooh.
good. Definitely is going to dwindle down.
Mhm.
It's going to be more and then it's going to dwindle down once I go through like edit stuff. But the first book, I'm probably 50, 60,000 words in. And somewhere in that, I had the thought of making it connect into that other series.
Mhm.
And so it's going to. And I'm just really, that's the one thing I'm like super proud of myself right now
Mhm.
for like actually doing that and like
Mhm.
taking the time to like write out a manuscript
Yeah. I
because I've
think
been wanting to forever.
I do applaud that because even, I mean, we talked about having our podcast and stuff like that. Even it's weird that most of these things start as thoughts and then for
Yeah.
most people they stay as thoughts. So anybody that can put a thought and like actually put it into application, I applaud because
Yeah. It's hard.
it
And
is
it's like
hard. The hardest part is starting.
yeah, and it's like the thing too is like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have time. I've got this, I've got that. And I'm like, me too. I
Yeah.
have so much going on.
Yeah.
Like, especially like working in production, my days start at 6 a.m. on set,
Mhm.
and I don't get home until like 9.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm working 12, 14-hour days, and that's work days. That's not including all of the travel time, you know? And I'm able to read as much as I do because I listen to audiobooks, which
Mhm.
counts as reading. So if anybody says that audiobooks don't count as reading, they do. And so
Take
I'll
that.
listen. Yeah. Ugh. There's people that don't think audiobooks are books. I'm like, they count. It's the book. It's like, it's like you're reading it, you're
Mhm.
absorbing that information. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, like as much as I work, I really do, as much as I work, I have my dog, you know, so it's like I have my own life,
Mhm.
but I do try to still carve out time to do these things that I enjoy doing
Mhm.
because whether it's playing Palia, whether it's reading a book, or whether it's sitting down and writing, it's things that I enjoy
Mhm.
and I just enjoy doing these things. So it's like worth it to me to like, you know, maybe I'm not going to go out for drinks with my friends because I want to, write 2 more chapters. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, they're going to go out in a few more days anyway. Like, I'll join them then.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like carving out time for yourself, I think is really, really important. And for me, writing is one of those things. Writing,
Yeah.
reading, those are like things for me to keep me sane. In this world we live in right now,
Yeah.
I really need to be able to
Mhm.
disappear into something else from time to time.
Mhm.
And that is sometimes the world building of my writing,
Mhm.
or the current book I'm reading,
Mhm.
or playing a video game like
Nice.
Palia. So,
And that really resonates with me now because especially doing this, I find like it's hard to find that balance and stuff, and that's what I'm trying to find now to like make that time. So the fact that you're even doing it, I applaud you so much because it's
thanks.
difficult. So to find
It's
time for stuff
hard.
you want to do,
It's
yeah,
hard. And like because I think one of the big things people need to remember is that things don't have to happen immediately.
yeah,
Like I started thinking about these books 15 years ago.
yeah,
You know, I finally took the time to sit down and start writing a year ago. I think I started in like May of last year where I
mhm,
actually sat down and started working on this and writing out these ideas and writing
mhm,
out these scenes that I kept seeing repeat over and over and over in my head. I finally took that time to do it. And it's I'm not done. I don't even have a draft done because I do have everything else going on in my life. I'm
mhm,
working depending on when, like right now I don't have a job right now, but I'm going to be going to Michigan in a week for a week to do a job.
mhm,
And so it's like, and then we have all of our prep prior to that. So it's like, I don't really have a lot of time, but I try to make sure that I put at least a little bit of time every week
mhm,
into these things that I enjoy doing, knowing that I'm not going to be done. I'm not going to finish it
yeah,
this week. You know, I'm not going to finish it in the next couple of months, because I have to balance it with everything else going on in my life. But it's something that even if it does take me a couple of years to do and complete, like it's still something that I'm doing and that I'm proud
Hmm.
of and that I'm excited to talk about. And I'm excited to, like, my friends in my book club, a couple of them, I've sent them scenes that I've
Hmm.
written and they've read them and they're like, I need more of this.
Nice.
And that makes me feels good because it's like,
It
okay,
does.
what I'm doing, I am proud of
Hmm.
with this story, like other people that are big readers that aren't going to just like tell me that it's good because they're like my friends, like they're people that analyze books and stuff are like, no, I need to read more. Like I need more of this. It feels good.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's not going to be done right away, but that's okay because I'm
Hmm.
enjoying my time doing it. And the outcome, I think when it is finished and I do finally have like an actual copy in my hand, I'll probably cry.
I'll
I'll
cry
start.
for you. I'll
Yeah,
cry
I'm gonna
for you.
open the box from the
Yeah.
publisher or whatever, and I'm just gonna cry all over the copies. Like, like, and
No.
and it's gonna be a great feeling. And it's like thinking about that eventual
Hmm.
is like keeping me going and keeping me like motivated to continue
Yeah.
to write and to
And
continue to just do these things that I enjoy.
and I think that's a good thing for a lot of people to hear the way you're phrasing it, because a lot of people are so into the instant gratification.
Yeah,
Put time in. Just as long as it's something that you enjoy doing and you're happy doing it, then that's all that matters at the end of the day. As
yeah.
long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, all the other stuff will come along with it. So you're already like moon over, like you're killing it. So good job.
Thanks, thanks. I've had a long time to reflect.
Hey.
I've had to take a lot of time because like were times where a lot of my life I was like, why is this not happening right away? Like why? Like I've been
Mhm.
in LA for 5 years.
Yeah.
I signed with an acting agency in December.
Mhm.
So it took me 4 years, 4.5 years to even sign with an agency.
Yeah.
Since then, I've only gotten a handful of auditions. I have done some short films. I have done a couple of like smaller like promo stuff for some
Mhm.
companies, but it takes time.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people just think that stuff is supposed to happen in a snap of your fingers. And it's just not like that. You have to be
Yeah.
patient and you have to understand that, like, for some people, yeah, you'll have an overnight success. But the
Yeah.
reality of it is it's not overnight. Like I know there's an
Mhm.
artist, I haven't really listened to much of her stuff. I know a couple songs. Her name's Chapel Roan. She's become an overnight success, but she's not. She's been making music and posting it for like 10 years,
Yeah.
So it takes time to
Mhm.
get to a point where that success happens. And it looks like it happens like that. It doesn't. Like it
Yeah.
takes so much to lead up to that.
Plus, people
And
don't know
people
what
don't
the
see.
people don't know
Yeah,
the
they don't.
stuff that happens in the background, like all the hard work that goes into it.
Yeah.
But
It's like in production,
mhm.
there's so much that leads up to
Mhm.
creating what it is.
Yeah.
And then when it happens, it's done and it's great and it's
Mhm.
amazing. Like shows and stuff, like sometimes like Stranger Things. Oh, speaking of, I don't know if you saw that. I built that. I know you said you saw stuff in the background, and I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
Demogorgon. He used to have an arm. The arm fell off. Um, but like Stranger Things
Uh-huh.
season 4, part 2 came out 2 years ago this week.
Mhm.
So it came out, I think might have been today, 2 years ago today.
Yeah.
Today or yesterday, I don't know. But it came out 2 years ago, and they're still filming season 5.
Mhm.
And it's just like it takes time to create something worthwhile.
Yeah.
And that's why like fast fashion stuff, it's like you get it super quick and it's made super quick, but it's gonna fall apart.
Mhm.
So good things take time. I think
Yeah.
that's something that people need to remember because they've forgotten it in the world of quick TikToks and
Mhm.
like vines and reels and all of these things that really put people's attention so quick. They're like, oh, these TikTokers became famous immediately. No, they've been doing stuff for years,
Yeah.
so good things take time.
Yeah. I think that's the
That's
lesson to that
I
story.
feel like, yeah, I feel like that's a good place to leave things at is good
Mhm.
things take time.
Awesome. And with that being said, that's all the time I'm going to take from you. But
This is going to be your longest episode yet.
no, no. Honestly, this has been a fantastic episode. But I do have one more question for you. I ask everybody at the end of it, how do you feel?
I feel good. I
Good.
love talking, so I
Good. That's it.
feel
That's
good. I
the
feel
goal
good.
of it. We want everybody to feel awesome after this.
Yeah, I feel good.
But
I feel motivated again. I'm
mhm,
like, I'm gonna get off this call and continue to write my
good.
book.
I mean, I do kind of too. I'm like, man, I gotta step my game up, but
It's like all this talk. I'm like, wow, I haven't done anything for 2 days. Maybe I should do something. I feel motivated to
yeah.
like, I do. I feel good. I feel motivated. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I forget that like not talking about things that I'm interested in, or not that I forget, but just talking about things that I'm interested in gets my brain going. So like anytime I have a conversation with someone where I'm talking about books that I just
Mhm.
read or I'm reading and they're really good, or the game or my
Mhm.
book, like it just puts it very fresh in my brain and
Mhm.
I'm like, I just want to do all of these things now. So I feel
Good.
good. I feel
I'm glad because any motivation that we can get is awesome. So sometimes it take, like you said, it takes taking talking about the things that we've done or like the things that we like to make us reignite why we like them and stuff.
yeah.
So I'm glad that that did that for you.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that's the end of our show. Before we do go, is there anything that you want to promote, say, or talk about?
Um, maybe my like bookstagram and social media stuff.
Yeah, plug it.
um, I have my personal stuff is pretty much everything is Jessica Lemon with two L's.
Mhm.
And then my like bookstagram or my book talk is J Louise Books. Um, yeah, that's it. I have a question for you though.
Yeah,
How do you feel good?
yeah, I do. I actually
Yeah,
feel pretty hype.
amazing.
Um, your your senses were all awesome because I honestly doing this like I've done it I think like 90s already and stuff, but I haven't had anybody correlate like experiences with like the actual senses and how they can heighten them.
Yeah.
So I haven't had somebody bring that up, so that's something that's good to think about. And like you've super got me like motivated for like after your proud moment because I'm like let's
You're
get it
gonna like
going, let's do
message
it.
me like tomorrow and
Yeah,
be like, I did it. I started this game. I
yeah.
did these things.
Mhm. Yeah, and I have to check out Palia now too. So, but no, I feel good after this. Just like how you mentioned, like your favorite side is seeing people like happy. Like
Yeah.
I like doing this because I like seeing the people get something out of it, and hopefully that you did.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do something again one day. So
Absolutely. What you said you're coming to LA. You
yeah,
hang out
in
or
like
something. It
absolutely,
depends
I'll
on when
hit
you're
you
here
up.
because I might be in Michigan. I
It'll be in like 2 weeks on a weekend. The
think I'll
weekend
be in
of
Michigan in 2 weeks.
okay. Yeah,
One day.
yeah. It's not that far from Seattle, but
That's true.
with with that being said, thank you, Jessica, for your time. I'm sure the audience appreciates it also.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Shout out to our special guests, Boyd
Void
and
and Bowie.
and Bowie.
He's down. I don't know where Void. Oh, I kicked Void out. So he's
Yeah.
not in here anymore. But Bowie is
Mhm.
chilling. Wait, did
Cool.
I kick Void out? No, I didn't. Oh, he's snoozing. He found a comfy spot.
Good. No wonder he hasn't been tearing things up.
I was thinking about that. I was like, he found a comfy spot between
Mhm.
stuff. He just moved. He was like, "What? Yeah, I heard my name." Yeah.
It's like you
He
talking
was a
shit.
menace for a few minutes and then he found a nap.
Cool. With that being said, we're gonna sign off. Jessica, again, appreciate it. And for everybody, thank you for joining us on another episode. And it's good having you guys here. And I'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.